Genocide.
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 Can you say it again?
Genocide.
There we go, thank you. Wait, just, okay, go ahead. Now go.
Genocide.
Alright, thank you. Wait, okay, that's it.
Genocide.
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 Good morning. I'm here with Elizabeth Shostakovich, a historical researcher who knows many of the facts concerning both the Rwandan genocide and the current Darfur conflict. Knowing both about both conflicts, do you find any similarities and differences between the conflicts?
Well, I did interview a Rwandan senator, and he listed several similarities between the two conflicts. First, he said that both governments have not done enough to protect their citizens. Additionally, both governments have aided the rebels in Darfur, the Janjaweed, and in Rwanda, the Interahamwe. It is the government's responsibility to take care of its citizens, and in this it is failing drastically.
Do you believe you have any bias in the Darfur conflict due to your involvement in the Rwandan incident?
I suppose that I do have some bias because of the strong emotional relationships I've created with fellow researchers in Rwanda. However, I do believe that because I'm so immersed in the facts and the situation that I am able to give a well-rounded and informed point of view.
Why do you think people should believe that you are an expert on the situation?
I have been a researcher for several years. People often use my work as a resource when authors write about the genocides in other countries or ethnic cleansing, especially in reference to current situations.
How can you believe that after the hundreds of thousands of people that have died in this situation, let alone all the people that have fled the country, that this is still not considered a genocide?
The situation in Darfur is not a genocide because it is not the systematic killing of a people based on race, politics, ethnicity, or religion, but a struggle between a group of agriculturalists and a group of people who are primarily nomadic.
Where do you get your definition of genocide from, and do you believe it's an accurate definition, and who do you believe has the right to give this definition?
My definition comes from the United Nations General Assembly of 1948, when they held the Convention for the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. The definition is stated in Resolution 260 of the Assembly. The Assembly defines genocide as an act on a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group involving killing members, causing harm, deliberately inflicting conditions that may cause harm, preventing births, or imposing measures that can transfer children to another group. I do think that the UN is an adequate body to define genocide as it represents joint nations of the entire world.
Regardless of the definition of genocide, do you believe that other countries have the right to go in and interfere in the conflict? And do you believe, if so that happens, do you believe that it's right that other countries can block or prohibit their involvement?
I do think it is the ethical responsibility of other countries to aid in the resolution of a conflict because it would help the majority of the victims. If a nation has an opportunity to get involved in the situation in Darfur, I definitely think that it should. Furthermore, I think it is wrong for countries to block their peers' involvement in the situation. For example, recently China has vetoed the UN entering the situation in Darfur because China is currently profiting from the Sudanese government in the form of oil and other benefits. In return, the Sudanese government is benefiting from the economic situation because they're getting money from China. And however, personally, I think that this alliance is selfish and is against the support of the common good. The Sudanese government aids the Janjaweed in the killings, and yet the UN is not able to enter the conflict because China supports Sudan as an oil source. To me, it just doesn't balance out.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Shostakovich. We'll see how the Darfur conflict and the controversies around it balance out in the upcoming months. Vinka, as the South African ambassador to the African Union, what is your position right now on the conflict in Darfur on what it should be defined as?
It is my personal opinion that the current situation in Darfur should be defined as a genocide and nothing less. Though the traditional term of genocide, or at least its definition as presented by the United Nations, may be too narrow or specific, to encompass what is occurring in Darfur, the conflicts in Sudan go way beyond crimes against humanity, and it is therefore my reasoning that the issue should be called a, quote, genocide. The word genocide also has a stronger connotation and evokes a certain emotional response in people that a simple crime against humanity cannot achieve. It is my conclusion that by calling the conflict in Darfur a genocide, that more countries and world citizens would be willing to give much-needed aid to Darfur, be it monetary or militarily.
Because of your close relationship with the African Union, do you feel you're more inclined to urge other countries to get involved with the plight in Sudan?
The African Union is an organization made up of approximately 53 African states. The general mission of the AU is to provide the basis for the construction of a whole Africa. By this we mean an Africa in which there is one currency, one economic system, one military and defense system. The AU is highly focused on protecting its own, and therefore, because Sudan is a contributing member of the African Union, I am more inclined to want other nations to help the current situation there. I will not deny that it is probable that I have some bias or inclination to urge other nations, neighboring or not, to take a specific and unwavering stance on Sudan. My stance is one of emotional attachment, but also one of ethical and moral code. The African Union itself has been a staple in the Darfur situation for multiple years now, aiming its plethora of resources at resolving what is happening and devising a peaceful solution. The AU has contributed approximately 7,000 peacemakers to the Darfur region, many of them from Rwanda. While the AU is more than willing to help, we have encouraged the takeover of our peacekeepers from the UN. The United Nations has also sent peacekeepers to Darfur, but Sudan refuses to comply and allow them to stay in their country. Therefore, the AU mission, which was supposed to end December 31st of last year, has now been extended to this coming June, which is spreading our resources as the African Union incredibly thin.
What led you to consider the situation in Darfur a genocide? And what would you say constitutes the most accurate definition of genocide?
Traditionally, the United Nations has defined genocide as, and I quote, a series of acts including killings designed to destroy, in whole or in part, a community designed by its racial, ethnic, or religious origin. In 1948, at a United Nations General Assembly, the UN adopted an official resolution stating its position on genocide, its definition, and its legal action that it would take under international laws against any groups involved in genocide. While persons in authority might argue that the people being killed in Darfur are not being killed because of racial, ethnical, or religious affiliation, it is instead a class war, a war where people are being slain and targeted due to the region in which they live and their economic stance. These terms should be included in a much broader view of the word genocide instead of the UN's specific definition.